All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today's special guest is Traci Duty. Traci, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Chris?
Really good. It's good to connect with you again.
It is. It's been a while, a really long while.
It has. We were talking pre-show, and I think we mentioned it's probably been since you ran Boston last time. So I saw you and your husband. I saw your husband, talked to him for a little while, and then you came out. So I don't know if that was how long ago that was, but
Was
a
that
while.
2023 or?
Yeah,
I think
maybe not
I
that
don't
long ago.
remember. Yeah, I
Maybe,
think
maybe it
talking
was.
to you after.
Okay.
I think
I don't
you.
know exactly when it was, but I remember
Yeah.
connecting with your husband. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I wanted to talk to you today because you have an interesting journey, and I can't wait to talk to you more. I learned a ton just talking to you for the last 5 or 6 minutes. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about you and how you get into running, when you started running, and all that kind of stuff.
All right. First off, I'm married to Jay. We've been married for 22 years.
Oh,
That's
congrats.
so long. We met in college. And then we have a 10-year-old son, Nash. He's about to be 11. He's in fifth
Yeah.
grade. Super
Is he a
awesome.
drummer?
He is. He's like a very amazing drummer. It's like,
No, like I remember several years ago, 5, 7, I don't know, however long ago, I saw Facebook and he was playing a post that he did, and I was like, "Holy cow, this kid is like really good." So he's
yeah.
still doing it then.
Chris, we bought him his first drum set when he was 2.
Yeah, 2.
With like, yeah, he's been going ever since. So
That's great. That's
my
awesome.
running, well, Chris, I always refer to myself as I was that crazy kid that always loved to run. Like I have loved to run since I can remember, since elementary school. I ran track in junior high and high school, but I was always, I think in junior high, I anchored all of the relays. So I was fast. And then come high
Super fast,
school,
like just like short distance.
yeah, that was just short. I did not do long distance. The longest I did, so in high school, I ran the 800. That was like my race. And then I ran the mile relay. So those were my 2 things. But
So you
I
basically did a quarter and you did the 800.
yeah,
Wow.
so I was always a little shorter distance. I was not long distance. I think my coach made me run cross country in high school just for conditioning. And I did not love that, but I did it.
As a kid, man, I did cross country, but I always thought it's difficult. Run that many
No,
miles.
I ever cut funny story. There was one. So I lived in Midland at the time. That's where I went to high school. Went to Midland Lee, and there was a cross country meet, and it was super cold that morning. And I don't know, I like did not want to go. So I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna like sleep in and skip it. My coach didn't let me. I got a call from my coach. They like held the bus for me. And this is like not my personality at all. I'm like 100% like I'm gonna do it. I will commit. But for whatever reason, I was like, I really don't want to go. But they made me go, and it was miserable. But I did it.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that when, especially when you go out and train and run and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
So you did 800, 400. Did you go in state at all, or was it just?
Okay. So, man, I got third at regionals. I should have gone to state. It was my senior year. And I just let the girl that got second, she just got out. I let her get a little too far ahead of me too early on. But she was dying at the end, and I had a kick, and I like almost caught her. But so I got third at regionals, but I did
Couldn't go
get
to
to go as an
state.
alternate. So one of our relay teams made it. And so I went as an alternate for the relay team, which was super cool. So I still got
What's
to
funny
go.
about that is I think that's something we'll always remember, right? Something like that. Like one time I went to this half marathon and I was running it. It was Paris, Texas. First
Uh-huh.
time they ever did it a long time ago. And I was running it. The first half was pretty easy. And
Yeah.
then I was like, I feel pretty good because I was high fiving people and everything else. And I just then hauled ass. And I was like, okay, it's fun. I was passing people left and right. I got into third place. Like I could see the first and second place person. And I wasn't going to catch the first or second because I could see them in sights.
Yeah.
And so I have my headphones on and I think they were this big as well. And I see this guy, he's managing whatever. And I just take a left and he might've been saying something to me. I don't know. But then I go like literally maybe not a quarter, but just a little 0.1 or 2 miles. I look back and I see them passing me like, I was like, oh no. And so I had to start running again. And I got to the first place woman, she was in fourth place. And then she kicked my ass at the end because, I was tried to catch her again. And so I'll always remember that. I would have got third place in that race and I got fifth.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I was just, oh,
Sorry, we digress a little bit.
no, I like it. I like it.
But sorry, you get out of high school, go to regions pretty fast, did pretty well. And so
Yeah.
what was next?
Okay. So I went to college, obviously didn't run in college. I wasn't quite fast enough to run in college, but I just ran for fun. But I will say, so one of my good friends, his name was Walt Hill, and he actually was the one who got me to run my very first marathon. So I ran my first marathon in college. I think it was 19 years old. It was like 2000. And it was in Abilene, Texas, which is probably the worst place to ever run your first marathon. It was called the Great Southwest Marathon. And it was in March. I don't think they do. I went and looked it up because there was like, that's before records were kept online. And so it's pre all of that. So I don't even fully remember my time. But my friend Walt, I think he ran for ACU. He was very fast and he was running it. And I was like, I'll run it. Chris, I think I did like maybe a 15-mile run. I did not really know how to train for it whatsoever.
Nobody does.
Chris, I wore cotton and everything. They didn't have any kind of like dry spirits. It was
shoes were crazy.
It was so hard.
But you did it.
I did it. I did it.
Running like 20 or 30 miles a week and that was it or what?
Something like that. I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't remember how I trained for it. I just remember maybe doing one 15-mile run. And then I would run with my friend Walt at school. But I like trained for part of it. Like I think I started training over like the Christmas break. Anyways, I remember, I think it was like mile 18. I looked over at him. I was like, I need some encouragement. Like, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. So he was such a trooper and he was so patient with me, but we finished. I think I ran like a 4:28.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Like, that's always a good first marathon, especially at 19 and not even knowing anything about it.
I had no idea. But also, this is gross, but like, I almost lost all of my toenails. I lost 8 toenails.
Just for that one run.
It was, I had run everything. It was probably my shoes were not the best.
What's funny, my wife was telling me that she thinks she's going to lose a toenail from her last couple of races. So
yeah,
it happens.
It happens.
Yeah. So you get that and you wanted to do it again or you didn't do it for a while or what?
I didn't do it for a while. So I did that one and I remember waking up the next day and my body hurt so bad. Also, I thought like I was going to have to cut all my hair off because it was like ended up in this rat's nest at the end of my race. I was like, and I just remember waking up in the middle of the night. My body hurt so bad. Like I said, I think I didn't have any nutrition. I might have had stuff gotten to water at the water stop, but it was also a very small marathon. The weather it was at the end of March in Abilene, Texas. It was like not a great first experience, but obviously it didn't deter me because I kept
But you did it with a friend. Oh, and so that's probably what kind of pushed you a little bit, I'm sure.
I would not have finished that race if it hadn't have been for my friend Walt. Like, he got me to the end, but it was so hard, but I didn't run my next. So that was 2000. And then I looked back at my next race. My next marathon was 2004.
Okay. Were you a little smarter this time or?
Not really. I actually ran slower and it was.
What made you decide to do this marathon? Yeah.
In marathon. What was I thinking? Yeah.
What made you decide to do that one? And was it?
I had a friend. Yeah. So my friends always are like, I feel like a lot of my races, you're doing it. Okay, I'll do it. And so one of my roommates in college, she was doing it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I might have trained a little bit better, but I ran a slower time. I ran a 4:36.
Okay.
In that race.
Did you run with somebody this time again or?
Okay, we ran together and then she died. And so I ran like the second half of the race. And the San Antonio Marathon at this point, I don't know what it is now. I think it's still going on, but it was 2 loops. So you did 2 loops and the loops were not great. It was not. Yeah. It's not great.
Yeah. So ran a couple marathons. Did you ever get to a point where you're like, or when did you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I've got to train for these.
So that was my next one. So I didn't run my next marathon until 2010.
Yeah.
And at that point I had a friend, Matt Arend. I don't know if you know him. He ran with the DRC for a while.
I know who he is. Yeah.
Okay. So we went through a season of running 5Ks together and like my husband and his wife are also really good friends. We did 5Ks and he was like, I'm going to do the Dallas Marathon. I want to do that. And then also at that point, I was 30 and I was like, I decided that, you know what? I'm going to train for it and then I'm going to qualify for Boston.
So finally you got some goals.
Yes. So I had a goal. I was like, I'm going to qualify for Boston. I'm going to actually train for this. I think I still use like the plan out of the running magazine. What's the main running magazine? I don't know. There was a magazine that I like took the plan out of.
World or something.
Runner's World. Yep.
Yeah.
Took the plan out of Runner's World and followed that. But I had a training partner. So Matt and I would do all of our long runs together out at White Rock Lake.
I think there's nothing better than friends or community to run with.
Huge. I think I've always had my best like training and probably my best results when training with a group or a friend for sure.
Yeah. And so you and Matt decided to run this and train together and properly. How'd you do?
Yes. I qualified. So that was Dallas
What?
2010. I ran the 3:33. So I cut like an hour off my time.
I'm sure you were impressed with yourself.
I was like, oh, like
You qualified for about, did you think after that race, you think, wow, like I cut an hour off. I bet I can do a lot better at some point.
now that I was thinking it at that point, to be honest, I think I was just like, I did it. So I was super excited about that because that was my goal that I'd set out for.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's when I thought, I don't know what got me like put the idea in my head of like actually training with the group. Because that's when I joined the DRC.
Didn't wasn't he part of the DRC, you said? So did he do it too?
Right away. So
Okay.
I'm the one that kind of brought him into the DRC. After my experience with them, I just was like raving about how wonderful it was to actually train with a group of people.
Yeah, and I think DRC is great for especially that. I've been running DRC for years and years. It's a group that, if people don't know, that they have certain paces, that they have pace leaders and things like that for pace groups for a lot of different races or runs. One is a marathon, two is a half marathon, and they have even 5K kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you were running with the 320 or 310 at first.
I put with a 310 group,
Okay.
which I was shocked. I was like, what? Yeah, so I got pit with them, and I didn't do any kind of tempo or mile repeat. I didn't do any of that before. So
Okay.
that was like my first experience with actually doing some faster training.
That seemed to help out quite a bit, I'm sure.
It helped out tremendously. So I remember on our first, what was a Tuesday? Because I would always go on Tuesday. I feel like our runs were
Tuesdays were the fast ones, or
Yes.
hills, and then Saturday were the long ones.
exactly. So I feel like our very first one, we were doing like 2 sets of 3 miles, I think, 2x3s. I didn't
Okay.
realize, I didn't really understand. And so I went out there and killed that first 3 mile. Chris, I died. The second one, I think Ethan was one of our leaders at that point, and he hung back with me on the second one because I was like, I was dying. I was like,
I just kind of like 2x3s. Like I remember doing 2 or 3 2-milers,
Yeah.
but not 3. That's pretty
I feel like
intense.
it was 3. I could be wrong. I don't remember, but it was, I just know that I died on that second one, and he hung back with me, which I really appreciated. But the next time we did that, like, workout, I was like, I got it. Like, I'm
You're a
going
little
to
smarter.
Yes. So I learned my lesson.
And then as you were with DRC, and I know did you run Boston with the DRC training? Okay.
I did. So I that's why I joined them. So I was like, I want to train properly for Boston. So that was Boston 2012. So I started training with them, I guess, at like the beginning of 2012. And
So just that one
was the year
cycle.
it was crazy hot. So it was in the mid 80s. I think it got up to 88.
Wow.
So that year they actually allowed you to defer if you wanted to because it was so hot. But I was like, I'm here. I'm not going to defer. And I remember Vishal was leader at that time. And I remember, I think I was messaging or texting him like, what do I do? Anyways, he was super helpful. And I actually ended up running a PR. So I just played it really smart. I was pretty conservative and I ran a 3:31. So that actually qualified me for Boston 2013. That was cool.
That's pretty. How many Bostons have you done overall?
I've done 4 Bostons. I've run 4 Bostons. There's been 2013 and 2018, which 2013 bombing, 2018 was the really awful cold year, and I was injured both of those years. So part of my story, I feel, is like injuries suck. Like it's not fun to be injured. But my injuries, in a sense, have been a blessing in disguise for me, which is weird to say. There's always been like a silver lining to my injuries. I would not have NASH, I don't think, if I had not been injured. I got injured, and up until then, I always thought, I have got to train. Like, I'll put off getting pregnant 2 more years. I want to train to have a faster time in me. Got injured, and it's like, I can't. And so we ended up having NASH, and then I missed Boston 2013 because I was injured. I'm very thankful.
That's a blessing.
In 2018, cold is my kryptonite. I do not like cold weather. I don't like running or racing in the cold. And
I think that day was a lot of people's kryptonite.
it was horrible. I just remember looking at all the pictures. I don't know if you went back and looked at any of the pictures of our friends that ran, and they looked so miserable. That looks awful.
I remember I was working at a company and I was one of the guys he was one of my clients. We became friends and he ran that marathon. He told me all about it. And I remember my wife, so she didn't start running the marathon until the year after, like 2014,
Okay.
to this day. But there's some stories that have been told. And plus some people here on the podcast have had to deal with that too. But
Yeah.
yeah, nobody wants to be injured, but if you're injured, that year was probably a good time to be injured.
Yeah. That's what I felt. I'm like, okay, I don't mind missing that one. That was okay with me.
Yeah. And so 2018, you were injured. And then what was after that? You have Nash at 2013?
I had Nash 2014.
14. Okay. He's
At him. And then, so
birthday's coming up.
yeah, he is. He's going to be 11, which just blows my mind. Time went by so fast.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know. I've got a 14-year-old and it's insane.
It is so insane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just how he's like such a preteen right now. A very sweet one. He's like a super sweet kid though. And he also loves running, I will say. He did like a track club. This is like I'm digressing. He did a track club at the beginning of the year through the high school. And they did a mile. And
Yeah.
640 something, like 640.
Dang.
I was getting he's in 5th grade. I'm super proud of him.
Kids are fast. And if you look, I think one is at the very least, all you can do is instill in them how important exercise is and eating right and all this other stuff. But I think if you can get your kids at some point into doing something, whether it's some activity, okay, if it's running or tennis or I don't know, whatever, drums, I think those are the important things. But he does see his mom run. I'm not sure what your husband does. If he does weights or exercises somehow, whatever.
He lifts weights and running is another side note. We figured out very early on in our marriage. We went on one run together. I was like trying to encourage him. Chris, it did not go well. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? I think we don't need to run together. That's not good for us. So we've always kept that separate. He'll run for fitness, but he doesn't love it like I do.
Yeah. I think that even like I run with Leah some, we're about the same speed in most cases, especially which is rare. You don't really
that is rare. I agree.
Spouses that can do that. Like to me, I like to talk and she doesn't. It's just kind of like running by myself. And I'm like, I'll just do it myself or whatever. But so 2018, you get injured. What happened? Was do you remember?
I think it was my back.
Oh.
So I love running is my first love. That will always be my first love. However, I had gotten into some group fitness classes. I love to do like cardio dance. And I think at this point I've
seen some of your Facebook posts. You still do it.
I do. Yeah, I love it. It's just, it was like my cross training because it's like moving your body in a different way than running does, which is good. So I was doing, but I think this was like a body combat class. I don't know. I was into classes. And so I did something and I was like going all in and I like jacked my back up. So like pulled my lower back pretty bad to where I went and got it. I think I got an MRI on it. Anyways, all that being said, it kept me from being able to train for Boston 2018.
Yeah.
But obviously it wasn't completely debilitating. I got over it. It was just an injury.
Yeah. That's hard because a lot of times if we, as runners, we want to keep going, keep pushing. Yeah. And because our mindset is just keep going. We're going to lose our physical kind of abilities. I don't know, whatever, fitness and things like that. And so we just push through and it's not always the best thing to do.
No. And do you feel, I don't know, I feel like I continue to learn that lesson. It's such a hard lesson to learn. I'm like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to stop, give it time to heal. It's just so hard. It's so hard. And then when you see your friends running or your group is running, you have I had major FOMO.
Yeah.
That I'm not running and training with them. It's so hard because it's such a big part, like such a community.
Huge community. And I think that the one thing I'm learning is doing all these interviews and talking to a lot of people that's always the common thing. And I think that it's a good thing. You want to be out there running with your friends. You build these unique relationships and friendships that you probably would have never thought about building because they're completely different than you a lot of times. But when you're on the pavement running, or if you're on the trail doing it, you're doing it with people that are doing it with you and similar things that you learn, you enjoy it. I think that's, I don't know, there's something cool about it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There's so many people. I'm like, there's no way we would have ever crossed paths if we had not run together. And I'm so thankful for those friendships. And
it's not easy, but it becomes easy. because you get to know them after you go 4 or 5 times and things like that. You just got to push yourself to get out there and then just speak up. I'm pretty vocal in any group.
Yes. Yeah, you are. I'm a little bit, I can be touch more like introverted, but like in a small group, I'm fine. But so it's been fun. Like the long runs, you're forced to talk in a sense. Like, you want to join the conversation, but it's also, I don't mind listening. As always, I know long runs are fun. Lots of
Sure.
conversation goes on. You talk about it, like everything.
Yeah, talk about a lot of things for sure. And you, when you're running DRC, it was a smaller group at that time, right?
Yes.
You had Paul and
Ray, and then Jonathan was part of that group, and Lexi.
Yeah. So a lot of fast people, really fast people. Did you run with Omar ever, or?
Yeah, I ran with Omar.
Okay. Yeah.
I sure did. I ran with Omar. I think he was a leader at one point.
Yeah. A lot of them were pace leaders and things. And those guys went on to run similar to what you did. And we'll get to that in a minute because you did some super fast races. And so 2018, we're done with that, finished. What was next after that? What did you
I did New York in 2019, and that was an awful race. Trained, but I feel like I trained mostly by myself for that one, for whatever reason. I think I did like the Hanson's method or something. So I did a lot of training. I think it was maybe Nash was young. It just was hard to go run with the group. I did a lot of training myself. And I think maybe I had a little bit of an injury going into it, but cramped really bad starting at mile 18. Did you ever have those?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So I don't know if you've ever had a race like this, but 2019 I ran New York and it was not a good race. Have you ever started a race and you're like, I just don't feel right?
Yes.
That was New York for me. Was going over the bridge and man, I don't know. My training had gone pretty well. I was like, I thought I would run a pretty fast time. And at mile 18, I started cramping like in my lower half. And so I fought through cramps that entire, like from mile 18 on. So I was talking with somebody recently. I like totally had to play games with myself to finish that race. Like I'll do 100 steps and I'll walk 100 steps, but it was just like, it was brutal. It was so hard.
Got to do what you got to do during those kind of races.
Yes. So that was tough. And that was right before COVID. Like I feel like the world shut down after that.
It did. Yeah. What'd you do during COVID?
Chris, I went the opposite of everybody else. So actually I was supposed to run Boston 2020. I ended up training. They canceled. I trained for 16 weeks and then they canceled the April one. And I actually hadn't signed up with a coach this time that I had found online, signed up with a coach. And then obviously they like canceled that, but they're like, we're going to do it in September. And so I took a little break and then went back to training again. And then they officially canceled it. And I was so burned out on training. I was like,
yeah, a lot of us were. There's nothing else to do besides train. And then you're like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
there's no races.
I don't want to go. I run around my neighborhood anyways. I don't want to pretend to run a race in my neighborhood. That was my mentality. I know not everybody had that.
Virtual races to me sucked.
Same.
I never wanted to do them.
Yeah, no, it just like, where's the race? I like the energy of a race.
Yeah.
There's something so different. And so I'd like, yeah. So I feel like though a lot of people started running in COVID and
that's true.
The opposite, to be honest with you. I decided that I was going to start lifting more. So I'm like, focus on lifting weights.
By the way, that's especially as we become older. Look, I'm 50 and I think, and I don't do a lot of weights and I should do more, but I think that's key at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so if you can add in weights and core and things like that, in addition to your running, you're going to feel a lot more better when you hit 50, 55, 60, et cetera, because you used to not even think that. Now I'm like, that's not that far off. And you're already 50.
I totally agree with you. I know. I think once again, I was like the silver lining of COVID for me. It was like weights. I started doing that a lot more and was not running very much. I might have run once a week. I really was not running very much. I was so burned out.
You look like you still do weights. Your arms look kind of muscular.
I mean, that deals a little bit with like where I'm at injury-wise, or not injury, but just not being able to run. So I will say something about marathon training is like I thoroughly enjoy like the process, but I love to have a goal to work towards. And that is something that like marathons put out there, right? You have this goal to work towards. And so like since I've been not running as much, I haven't had that goal, which that was such a big part. And so I've had to like change my goals. So because I can lift, that kind of became my goal, is like to get stronger and
that's a good one. I think that's we have a pull-up bar right here at the house. And so we'll do both chin-ups and pull-ups. I try to do 5 to 7 chin-ups every other day or so, and then maybe a little bit more, and then the pull-ups I can do a little bit more.
Yeah.
I do think that's important, is to really kind of look, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, but if you're not going to go to a class or go work out, do some other things besides running.
Oh, I totally agree with you. To be honest with you, too. So COVID happened. I didn't run a whole lot, started lifting, and then I feel like they deferred because you could run Boston 2021, and they decided to do that in October. And so that became my goal. And that's when I started. So I did start running. I would run maybe like once or twice a week. And I would run with Jonathan, and there was another couple of people that we'd run with, and we'd run like once a week.
Who were they?
Victoria, I think, was another gal. And then I think there were some people that ran maybe with Pegasus or the White Rock Running Club.
Got it. Just a mix of people.
Yeah, just a mix of people, which also I love that about our running community. Like, it's small, and you just, I don't know, you meet some really cool people. I love how, like, into all the running clubs are like so, I don't know, I feel like they're friendly with each other. So that's been.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are against each other. For sure.
No.
It's just love. So it's just running. Like, I was talking to this guy the other day, we were running with him. And at the end of the day, it's just a running club. But there's a lot of politics to a lot of these running clubs that, everyone that I've been in, there's always some politics.
For sure.
And I think that it's just because we're people. Like, some people want to run faster and they don't think this group is doing it. So they start their own thing over here and do this over here and create another running group for these types of people. And so, whatever, that's just life. That's just how we do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Sure, it'd be fun to listen to some of the politics on the podcast, but
Maybe we need to start a separate podcast for that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's like trash TV or trash podcast about running.
It'll be like the Real Housewives kind of drama, but
Yeah.
a little running. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some running.
All right, this is not enough. We have to make some shit up. So let's pause it and then go. All right. So you do October's Boston Marathon. How'd you do?
Okay, so that one, so I trained, Jonathan was my coach, and that was great. Like, he offered, because I was like, I don't think I want to go back to the coach I was working with. I liked them. One thing I did get from that one was the strength training. So I actually strength trained 3 days a week, and it was specifically for running, which was great. And then I really focused on my nutrition. I think I might have found Featherstone at that time. There's a gal that was real big into the nutrition part. So I really focused on nutrition and strength training. And that's when I had my breakthrough, was Boston. What was that? Boston 2021.
What'd you run?
I ran a 3:01. And
That's the one I went. No, I didn't go to October, did I? No.
Did you? No.
When the one after? No, I don't think we did.
Yeah.
I don't think I did.
My previous fastest time was a 3:14. And that was in Kentucky 2019.
So that's a huge breakthrough. I think that I hear that a lot about nutrition. I got a coach and I strength train. And I think that's a recipe for success.
For sure. Yes.
Obviously, you're seeing it, and a lot of people say it. And a lot of times when I talk to the folks from Sloth, they say some of those same things. But I don't know if they use Matt Campbell as a coach or whatever, but
Yeah.
I know they do a lot of his stuff. But they talk about strength training and nutrition and a lot of miles. They do a lot of miles.
They do a lot of miles. And when I so I ran Boston 2021, that was a huge breakthrough for me. And at that point, I was like, holy cow. Also for that race, like I told you, like in our pre-combo, it was, the pressure was off. That race was just so interesting because at the time of year, the weather was ideal. And then it was the start, you didn't all start together. You had a period of time, you could start whenever. So it was just like, oh no, the pressure was just so off. It was just like, and then I went out there and I ran and I felt great. And I had struggled with, I think in previous marathons of towards the end, right? You struggle, it becomes really hard. And I would run a lot of it. This one, I ran the whole thing and I felt so strong at the end. And I think if I had known how close I was to breaking 3, I probably maybe would have pushed it a little bit more in the beginning, but who knows? I don't know.
So quick question for you.
Yeah.
We talked about this in the pre-show a little bit, is something I've been hearing lately, especially with thinking about that speed and beyond, is that there's actually a strategy that some folks like yourself take. I don't know if you took this or not, but I'd love to hear your thinking around the first part of the marathon, the second part, and the third part. Because what I've been hearing was, and look, maybe this is common sense, but it doesn't seem to happen this way for a lot of people, including myself. A lot of times I go out too fast. I'm struggling at the end. There has to be, I think, if you really want to run these times, a strategy in the very beginning, first 5 to 7 miles, you're going to do this. The next several miles, you're going to go a little faster. And then mile 20 to 21, you're going to just haul ass
Yes.
and go at the red. But how do you do that? And is that something that you do or thought about doing or what?
So I had not really done that until Boston 2021. And I call it like chunking my race. So I like chunked it into, I don't know if it was like 5-mile like increments basically. And so I had a pace for the first 5 and then the second 5. And then I feel like whenever I hit like the half marathon point, if you're feeling good, then let's pick it up. So yeah, I definitely had like goal paces. So it just chunked my race, which was, I really liked it because it helps make the marathon a little bit more manageable in a sense. If you chunk it and I'm not thinking about the entire race, but I'm thinking about these 5 miles at a time, which just really, I don't know, really helps mentally and gives you little like mini goals. I think mini goals throughout a race are really good because the marathon's long. It's a long run. So
yeah,
I like those. I like
at least 3 hours, apparently.
What'd you say?
I said at least 3 hours, apparently.
At least, yeah.
All right. You ran that. Wow. Congrats. 3:01 is pretty amazing, but I know you've done even better. So let's continue.
Okay. So I could have turned around and run Boston, 2022, but I chose not to. And after Boston 2021, that's when I started running with the Sloths. So I think I went on one run one day. It was like we were doing, I don't know, some kind of a speed workout or Sinfo. I can't remember exactly, but I ran with Jennifer and Maddie. And then I think Eric was there and Aaron Pearson was there.
Talked to all of them.
Yeah. And we were doing some workout and it was like just so much fun. It was just so much fun to do it with people. And I was able to keep up with them, I was proud of myself for that. Because also, I'm 45. At that time, I was a little bit still in my 40s. So everybody that I was running with was 10 to 13 years younger than me, which honestly,
32.
Like,
yeah.
That's it. That's a big difference, especially once you hit your 40s, I feel like.
I definitely think age is a key factor, obviously. That's why there's age group winners and things like that. But for you to be able to keep up with them and run as fast as you are, and I think, look, maybe shoes and things like that have helped us a lot over the last 5 or 6 years. I think that's a huge factor. Don't get me wrong, from injury prevention to running faster, all these things, which is a good thing. But I think that you doing that at that level at your age, and you're not old, but you are 45.
45, yeah. I'm not a young chicken, so.
No, but that's awesome.
So it was really fun. I think they really inspired me and also showed me like I could do it. I always felt like I had this potential and I felt like my training would go really well and then would come race day and I wouldn't live up to what I had been training at, my potential. And I think Boston.
3:01, you hit that potential.
What'd you say? Yes.
At 3:01, I think you hit that potential for sure.
So that's when I was like, oh, like I have more left in me. I knew I had more like to go. So it was really awesome to have the Sloths and just all have the same goals in mind. And they really pushed me in the best way. So I had a whole like season of halves. So I ran 4 halves in 2022 in that like winter spring. So I did Houston, Cowtown, Big Star, and then I ran the Indy half.
At Cowtown, is that the one that because I think I did that one too. I think it was a rolling start, but they had this weird line. I mean, it was still COVID-like, but not COVID kind of thing, or.
It was actually that year, which was cool. I got to run as an elite.
Wow.
At Cowtown as for the half. And so that was super fun. I can't remember. I placed in the top 10 for women, for all women, not even just like masters. Just once you hit 40, you become a masters runner. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
To win masters at least?
I can't remember if I won the masters. I think I might.
Won so many?
No. It was fun. It's a great race, but it's a hard course.
It's always hard. I've done it like 10 times and find that race is hard. I would never do the marathon.
Yeah, I have not done the marathon, but just the half.
But they do well on that course. They do. I don't know how, but they do.
Yeah, you're so right. So many people do really well on that course. But yeah, it's a great race. It's really run really well.
Did you run your 120 that year?
So my previous PR was like a 128, and I had done that at Dallas, the Dallas half. I can't remember what year. Anyways, I ran Houston. I ran like a 121. And then I did I had a PR like by seconds at Cowtown. And then Big Star, I ran Big Star and I ran a 120.07. I think I placed second overall for women.
You're very consistent those last 3
Yeah.
that you mentioned. So that had to feel pretty good. And
Yeah.
you know what I would think of is there's got to be another breakthrough.
I know. So I reflect so badly. If I had known, like, the end of Big Star was hard. It has a lot of turns, and I had Eric Woodcock, who was also part of the Sloths. He was pacing me at the end, or pacing me through that, and he was like, that was so helpful. That at the very end, it was a little bit of a confusing ending because there was lots of turns and stuff, and I don't know. I was like, oh, I was so close to breaking 120, and that was my goal. Ended up running Indy, half marathon in Indy. It's really fast. It's really cool. You get to run on the speedway, and I ran like a 1:20:30 something at that race.
Jeez, so consistent. I love that. Like 4 in a row that were very consistent.
Yeah, but it was like very like back to back.
Yeah, but still very, I mean, it's funny because you hit the breakthrough of 128, right? Then now you're running 121, 121, 120, whatever, and then another 120 something. So that's, you got to look at that and think, wow, you're now a very consistent runner at that very fast pace.
I was just like, I was
For
so
a 40-year-old
close
woman.
right in the I was
30-year-old woman. Look at that.
Yeah, I was before
Awesome.
40, so yeah, I was proud of myself, but I also still felt like I had more in me. So I did season and halves, which I think really prepped me to help like that. I think that's what was part of
Your
what
mindset,
contributed
too.
to me breaking 3. So I had signed up for.
Broke 3. Wow. Okay. Tell me about that. And the training. I want to know more about
Okay,
it.
so training. So I was still training with the Sloths. I ran the Indianapolis marathon. This was November of 2022. Jennifer Pope also ran it.
Yeah.
And I got to run as an elite at that race too, which was super cool. I actually got to have my water bottles on the course. This is the first time I've ever had that, which is like really cool.
Pretty awesome.
So I ran that race and it was really well run. The weather wasn't ideal, to be honest with you. It was rainy, and the wind at the end was like, I think 20-mile gusts at least. It was really windy at the end. But so that was the first time I ran without music. I like to listen to music when I run. I know it's like a lot of people don't, but I do. I'll like put certain songs at the end to pump me up to finish. So I ran without music and I ended up breaking 3. I ran a 2:54:03
Wait, where was this?
in Indianapolis.
Oh, you actually ran the marathon there. I thought you were talking about the half.
Oh, I did the half. So funny thing, I did the half, and when was that? The half was in May, and then I turned back around and did the full. Because I had had read that it was like a very fast course. And to be honest with you, the entry fee was super cheap. And actually, looking back, I didn't sign up to be an elite until I had already paid for it. I could have had it paid for, but anyways, so.
Looking back, maybe you'll know for next time. So, is that October race, the one you did for the marathon? Do you remember?
I wrote it down. It's in November.
Oh, November. Yeah. Wow. So you hit 2:54. What? You just trained with the Sloths and with the Popes and the whoever else was there?
I sure did. I trained with them, had my nutrition was really dialed in, was still doing a lot of strength training. So I think all of that really helped. And I think I just had the confidence of having some fast half marathons. I had some speed behind me at that point, and I just had a really solid training block. And it's like, I can do this.
Was there any specific mindsets that the group had that you adopted, or you feel like maybe you were already running really fast from a half standpoint, but was there anything there that gave you that confidence to go that fast?
I think it's just honestly our training runs. We had such good training. And so when you have good training, you have that to lean on. I think when it comes to race day, I just would think back to, I've done this before. I've run this pace before. Like I said, like chunking up your race too. So that always helps. Like at the end, I'm like, I've done 3 miles at this pace at the end of a training run. I can do it in a marathon. So I think it was a lot of that, just like a different kind of confidence that I had. And I think that really, and the Sloths were so supportive too. They're such a supportive group and just really believe in each other. And so I think that was helpful too. And it was really cool to have Jennifer there. And that was the one where she, I think, was 15 seconds away from qualifying, like having the Olympic qualifier. Like she won the race, which was so cool. And so it was really cool to be there for that too. And Matt Campbell, I think, was at that race as well. So we all got to run together. Or not, I did not
Sure,
run.
you did well too.
They ran together. I ran slower behind them, but still faster myself.
Very fast. By the way, I'll say this is, there's a lot of really fast men and women in Dallas Fort Worth. Just a lot.
You're right.
And when you start looking at the women specifically, like running under 3 hours, there's a lot of them now, right? And they're just super fast. The Melanie, Maddie, and of course, then you have another level of people at 2:30s. There's 3 women that I can think of right now, and maybe there's more that are hitting under, right?
Insane.
Think of
Jennifer.
Mimi Smith,
Yeah.
Jennifer, and this woman, Raina. I forget her last name, but she runs with the Sloths from my understanding now. But I'm just saying, think of like women at that level and at under a 3 hour, but also at 2 views. That's insane.
It's
to me,
insane.
you know?
And Chris, like thinking back to your previous question, like mindset, I think that was also it. There were all these, I was actually running with women that I think all of them had broken 3 just about. I think there was like a couple of us that hadn't. So it was also like, I can do it. I'm keeping up with them in training.
Of course you can.
Training's good. So it was like, okay, let's do it. And so it was like a whole kind of thing to let's break 3.
And you did it. I love that. I think that some of it is certainly mindset. You went from a 301 to 150 or 254. So that's another good chunk
Yeah.
for a PR. And then after that, I know you've done better than a 254, which is crazy.
So
Awesome.
I followed along the path as Jennifer Pope. She did Indy and then she ran Houston. I did the same thing because my training was
Okay.
there and I felt I was feeling really good. And so I just,
November to January. Okay.
Mhm.
It's pretty quick, but
yeah. But I was like, I felt really good after Indy. Like I recovered really well and just felt like I could just continue the training and I ended up running a 252 in Houston. So
see, the consistency continues. And I think that one of the stories here is it's a lot of times the same story as everybody else. It takes time to get to your peak, to your best. And I'm not saying that is actually your absolute best, but you really did cut down a lot from a 430 something marathon all the way down to 252.
yeah.
Insane.
It was like
Like, how
25
awesome
years,
that is.
or not quite that much, but 20 something years.
Took you a long time. You over time got better.
Yeah.
But and I can always see, I would see you run or whatever. I knew like when we were at 320 or I don't know, 310, whatever you did, I was like, that woman I don't know what's going on, but she has so much more potential than what she's running.
Yeah.
I even saw that in Lexi. Like she was running half marathons and she was running like 140s. And I was like, Lexi, you have the ability. I said, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to kind of get down there. I was like, but your ability is like awesome. I don't know what it is, but it's easily under a 130. But by then, your mind says, I'm running with the 140s. I'm not going to ever get that. But you have to put yourself, and I think it's the community around people that are doing similar things that you are, train like they do. You can get that. And I almost quote this every time because Matt Campbell said it best. He goes, right now we have a lot of 230ers. If I hit under 230 and become a 220er, everybody else is going to be a 220.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you're doing. All these women, and there's a lot of men too, but are hitting under 3 hours and hitting in the low 250s and hitting under 250s. And we have, anyways, the point is it's like pretty amazing.
It's like
It's DFW.
Yeah. You surround yourself with the people that have, like you're saying, goals.
Exactly.
So I definitely think my next goal was I wanted to break 250. That was huge.
So what happened? What's going on?
I did Houston, ran my best time there, and then my hip started bothering me a little bit after Houston, but I ended up running Boston 2023. And that was my last race, and I ran a 257, which was a PR for me on the Boston course. Best time there was a 319. No, like 301. I'm sorry, 301 was my previous best time. So I ended up running
Boston.
a 257, which, to be honest with you, I almost didn't run Boston because my hip was bothering me.
You still ran a 257.
I ran a 257, and I was with 2 bathroom stops. I was like, so.
Oh my God.
Serve at 257, I was pleased with that because the weather was not ideal. It was really rain. It was rainy, not necessarily cold, but it was rainy that race. So I did that, and then after that,
So hold up.
Yeah.
I've got a question that I should start asking people, and I want to ask you because I'll forget if I don't ask now, is when you look at one, like your shoes and things like that, are you running in a certain pair of shoes like that is a go-to for you, like before or during these races, or?
Yeah, I was the Nike. Yeah, it's the Nike Vaporfly. Wait,
Okay.
no, Alphafly. I'm sorry. That's the race.
Alphafly,
Yeah,
okay.
the Alphafly. So I was running in those, which I do think those help. I mean, so I ran. All my fastest times were in Alphaflies. I think I would do my speed work and then Vaporflies, but the Alphaflies is what I ran.
How about just like long runs? Same thing.
Long runs, I have the A6 Nova Blast, so I like that shoe a lot. And then there was a new that I liked, so I would switch them out. And then anytime I did any kind of faster run, I would usually use my vapor flies with that in training. So
Love that.
rotate.
Very popular. They're hard to get nowadays. You could try to buy them and they're always sold out now.
But I had noticed, I was watching, like looking at Boston, and they always do the reports of what shoes like the fastest runners were wearing. What was it, like Puma was up there, and what was it?
They were.
On Cloud.
Different.
There was like some interesting, I was like, huh. So I feel like a lot has happened. Like a lot has
Pumas look, I think they're fairly new. They look, I know Puma is, but they've been around for a long time. Used to be a soccer shoe.
Right.
Didn't Asics used to be soccer? Anyways, yeah. But Puma, yeah, like their shoe looks really cool. I didn't try it on or anything, but I was like, dang, that looks really fast.
Yeah, it does. They look so interesting. It's not a shoe you would just want to wear like out and about for racing, for sure.
So you did Boston 2:57. That's pretty awesome. See the consistency.
Yeah.
I know you probably want to do faster. You went to the bathroom a couple times, so you had to pit stops and you still ran under 3.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. And so your hip's been bothering you. What's going on there? And then what happened?
Yeah, so hips started bothering me. Took a little bit of time off after Boston, and then I started training. I was supposed to do Chicago 2024. No, 2023. Chicago 2023. A lot of the sloths were running that, and we were all going to do it together and go. And so started training for that, and very early on in my training, I was on the longer training run, and my hip just like really gave out to the point where I had to, Aaron Brettel, actually, he was injured at the time, I think, and he was like rollerblading with us or something. So he actually went back and got his car and picked me up. And then that kind of started like my whole injury, like issue.
So before we get into that, funny you say that. Aaron Brettel seems to be the hero here because I don't know if it was Melanie or Maddie. One of them is allergic to ants.
Maddie.
So she's allergic to ants, and I think called 911 or something because she got all. So he seems to be the hero here. Like
he is. He like came and he was like, "I'm gonna rollerblade back and I'll go get my car and pick you up." So he's a great guy. Also super encouraging. Yeah. So he took me up, and then that was my last long run that I've done. And that was June 2023.
Wow. I did wonder. I was like, I saw you like a post or two from the Instagram on DFW Talk, but I was like, whatever happened to Traci? I haven't seen her run lately.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd get to the bottom of this because I knew you had a really great story.
Yeah.
But I was like, is something going on? I was like, yeah, you've been injured for both. You mentioned your hip. Is that getting better or?
It was the start of it. It wasn't. So that was June 2023. Then fast forward through the summer, I wasn't running really. I had met with a running PT and was trying to work through that, which it was getting better. I think I started running a little bit, and then I want to say it was September of 2023. My knee. I was I also was playing tennis during this time, doing some things. My knee, after a heavy lower body lift, the next day, my right knee was really swollen. And I've never had, as long as I run, I've never had knee issues. So this was what is going on? And so that kind of started, I don't know. I tried to figure it out. I've done so many things, so many therapies, all kinds of injections over this past, it was a whole year. Completely changed my diet. I've done so many things to get to the bottom of why are my knees this way. Finally got MRIs on my knees and found out that I have osteoarthritis in both of my knees. So that's where my cartilage is worn down. And for whatever reason, I was telling you earlier, it didn't happen overnight, right? It's been there probably for a while, but for whatever reason, there was something that sent my body over the edge and just caused this state of inflammation. Chris, a year ago, I couldn't walk. I could hardly walk without limping. I couldn't squat down to get my laundry out or pick something off the ground. I was in a really bad state. And I said, I was doing all the therapies that I could do, doing all the research, met with several orthopedic doctors. I'm still young. Now I'm 45. I feel I'm still young. And my knees aren't so bad that they need surgery. I don't want surgery. And I'm really into finding something that's going to be long-term but regenerative. I'm very into regenerative and functional medicine. So I actually ended up getting stem cell injections in my knees almost a year ago. And that was a game changer, I will say. It actually calmed my inflammation down, allowed me to have mobility in my knees again. And I started running again last summer and was doing pretty well. And then I could feel my knees, at a point I was you know what? I went for so long without running that I feel like I need to rebuild that foundation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you do.
I was just like, I'm going to end up hurting myself again and being out. And so that's when I end up finding this doctor who actually works with people with arthritic knees. And so he's a PT. He's in Houston. I actually have a Zoom call with them almost weekly. And so he's written me this very specific plan to get me back to running, particularly. That was my main goal. So like I told you earlier.
Do you think you can?
Yes.
It's very positive about okay.
I do. So that's the other thing. I have a very positive mindset. I will put in the work. I'm a hard worker. You give me a plan and I will follow it to a T. And I will work so hard. And I love it. If I didn't love running so much.
That's like my wife, Leah, man. She'll just,
yes,
whatever plan, she'll just do it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's totally how I am.
I love that. That's awesome.
And she loves running.
Yeah.
I feel it's my first love. I love running. And so I will do anything to get back to running. I'm so thankful for the years that I had those times. And I'm thankful for that. But I'm man, I still feel like I have something left.
More, of course you do.
Working. It's been a roller coaster. I don't know, your journey back is not linear by any means. I've definitely hit some snags here and there because what I realize is with osteoarthritis, it's not an injury. It's actually a condition. So it's something that can flare up. About a month ago, I was running and I got back into my dance classes and was doing some lifts on top of my other prescribed lifts. And it was too much. It was too much volume and it gave me a setback. So I was like, oh. So it's really hard. It's been challenging, but my knees are so much better than they were. I'm still working. I got to run today, which was great. I did 3 miles today.
Yeah.
So
you felt good?
Yeah. So at this point, you realize you take things for granted. I took my health for granted that I was able to run and train. And then all of a sudden something happens. You're like, oh my gosh, I had this vision for myself a few years ago. I'm going to continue to get faster, continue to be able to train and run like I was. And then shit hit the fan. And
dude, I think that it sucks that you have to go through all that. But I think sometimes it's just reality for some people is that injuries happen when conditions happen in this case. So you had a little injury, but then a knee condition that happened with the arthritis stuff. And part of that journey is how do you get your way back? And you're getting there. You're fighting with everything you have to do that. And it's not easy. But what I love about somebody like you is that you don't put, like you said, you put in the work to try to make it better. And that is the key at the end of the day. Whether you want to become a fast runner, a really good runner, and get better, you have to put in the work. And you have since day one. You've just got better over time, and you've shown that. You went from a 440, whatever, 430 or whatever to 252 in a marathon. And you went from running fairly fast halves to really fast halves.
yeah.
And now it's just it's a setback from an injury standpoint, but you're doing weights, you're doing core work, you're doing dance stuff or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
You're still extremely active and you can't even run.
Yeah.
Hardly.
So I feel like something that I've learned too through all of this is you've got to focus on what you can do. Like I said, I loved marathon. One of the things I loved about marathon training is I had a goal to work towards. I loved that. I loved the process. I love working hard towards something. I was like, okay, then how can I put that energy into something else? And so I can do this. So I'm going to focus on doing this and that will only help me and when I'm able to run again. So it really is focusing on what you can do, being positive about that. Of course, I have my days where I sulk and I'm like, oh, this sucks. All I want to do is run. I go on walks because there was a period of time I could only walk. And I'm like, I'll see somebody running and I felt like I need to say, I'm a runner too. You have that, but it's okay. So focus on what you can do. Stay positive. You'll have setbacks, but I've learned you can work through that setback and then I'm so much better than where I was a month and a half ago. My knees are so much better and I'm able to run. I was able to run today. So that's a positive. I'm going to focus on the positives. So I think that's something that's super important that I've learned through all of this.
I think that's awesome, Traci. Is there anything that I should have asked that I completely didn't ask and forget that I forgot?
I don't think so. I feel like we pretty much covered everything else. Other than I will say one thing I was thinking about through this whole my running career, something I would tell my younger running self, or I would love to tell the people that are younger. Like I said, I'm 10 to 12 years older than all the people I was running with. They're all in their early 30s. I'm strength train and then really focus like your hip flexors, your glutes, your ankles. Those are so important in running. So if you can focus on those things, like it's going to help you age gracefully into running, I would say. If somebody had told me that and I had worked on those things, I think I could have avoided like hip and back issues that I had, but I didn't know. And so that's something that I've learned that's so important.
I do think it's hard to do. So when you think of the amount of miles that you're putting in at your peak, right? A lot of, I don't know if you tell me what you did, but a lot of these people are running 70, 80 to 110 miles a week.
Yeah,
Literally.
it's a lot.
110 miles a week. It's insane. But then you got to fit in core work, you got strength work and all of that kind of stuff. It's hard because that's your life. You have a kid that's 10 and he will need more because when he's 12 or 13, he's 14, he gets into high school and then has all these things he's going to. Yes, eventually he can drive and there'll be some load to lift it off or whatever, but you're still a parent. And my only thought is that Mimi said this one time. She goes, look, we all have jobs. Some people have kids. Some people we're not necessarily going to be doing this at an elite level. She is, but you know what I mean? Like for the most part, most of us aren't.
Yeah.
You know, we do this for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be the only thing I would, but yeah,
That's excellent.
time. But I think maybe you don't feel it as much when you're younger, but as you age, like, the recovery becomes way more important and then just what you're doing. But it just takes more work. It takes a little bit more work if you want to continue to perform at those levels.
My wife tells me this stuff all the time, and I hear her say these things all the time. So it's so weird that you're saying the same things.
Yeah. I told you this earlier, but Leah was always such an inspiration to me. I loved watching her journey.
Awesome.
And I think she might have been somebody that turned me on to like really looking at my nutrition for racing. I think that was something that she was big on. I'm like, what are you doing? Because she was just killing it.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll appreciate that. I'm glad you said that. And I think that she used NutriWorks, or no, not NutriWorks. What's her name?
I think I actually asked Leah and I worked with Cal. So I was like, what are you doing? You were like killing it. So I wanted to keep doing.
I think that helped her a ton, was doing that. So, well, Traci, this has been really good. I really appreciate you sharing your journey. So thank you everyone for tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Please go to our Instagram, follow us, we have a Substack newsletter. Make sure you follow that and we'll talk to you in YouTube. But until then, Traci, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Take care.